Hey everybody, it's your old buddy Uncle Rich for Who's Telling the Truth. And guys, today is September 17th, 2018. This is show 233, and the name of the show is Socialism. And guys, when it comes to socialism, probably the easiest thing I could say about socialism and defining what it is, socialism is sharing. That's right. That's what I mean. Socialism is sharing. Now, guys, when I went to school, we were always taught that the only thing worse than socialism was communism. That's right, Sister Dorothy Ann. That's exactly. Guys, communism is the worst thing. Well, now we know that's not true anymore. Because what polls lower than atheism? Nothing. So guys, we're going to have some fun with this tonight. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, I ran into an old friend. And guys, we spent a lot of time together. We had a lot of fun. And we bumped into each other at a McDonald's. And we sat down, and we had a cup of coffee together. And I was shocked. I was shocked at how little he knew about socialism. And guys, one of the worst things is, I'm not going to tell you where, but he's a police chief. And he's responsible for employing police officers. And here we are sitting in a McDonald's, and I'm telling him that what's wrong with the country is that people aren't being paid a living wage. They don't have health care. And I said, could you imagine if you treated your officers the way the employees at McDonald's are being treated? How many police officers would you have on your force? None. Why? Because people, if you work a 40-hour week, you deserve to make a living wage. And guys, we have a right to have health care. And that's what I really, we want to try to expose everything. And, we're social animals. That's what human beings are. We socialize. That's why I have so much fun with the social media. And we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. But guys, what happens is a lot of times, as social animals, sometimes we get the wrong ideas. And this is what I want to really try to straighten out tonight. And guys, one of the best examples I came up with sharing was when we had our first child, my daughter Diana. We went on our first family vacation as a family. We went to Jersey. My sister lived in Point Pleasant. We got a motel for the week in Point Pleasant. We had a beautiful room next to the pool, across from the ocean. And of course, my daughter was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years old. And what do you do when you have a little kid? You buy them all these toys. The pinwheels, the rubber duckies, all the stuff that daddy's got to sit there and blow up. And anyway, with the little kids, they love all this stuff. So anyway, we got my daughter by the kiddie pool, and there's another family, and they had their daughter, and all the kids' toys were by the kiddie pool. So right away, the kids were starting to, of course, the other kids wanted to, what they didn't have, they wanted to play with from the other kid. So my wife, in her brilliance, and with a wink to the other adults, the other family adults, she said, well, it's very important that we're in a pool. All the toys get shared. Diana, you can play with Jennifer's toys, and Jennifer, you play with, and everybody shares. And guys, it worked so beautifully. Everybody was happy. And that's what we want to try to come away with tonight, with a feeling that sharing, by doing stuff for each other, we can accomplish so much. And to start the show, we're going to have some fun. Guys, we're going to play a bunch of short clips just to show you, just to talk about socialism. But first, we're going to start with Bill Maher. So Judy, clip number 01, please.
Socialism. Socialism
Volume,
is
Kurt.
the reason you don't have to bring your own highway when you want to drive somewhere.
Volume, Kurt.
It's why there's a fire department to show up when your burning Nike spread to the house.
All right, Kurt, can I get more volume out here, please? How loud it is. Guys, we have new equipment. And believe it or not, we were going to really, this might be the last time you see us doing the show from this set, because we have new chroma key, the new green screen, and we were hoping we were going to do that tonight. But you can see we got new equipment, we're trying our best, and I don't think they realize how loud it comes through over here when I'm trying to talk. But anyway, guys, we're working through the bugs. We're trying to have fun, and we're going to forge ahead now. And our next clip is going to be from Bernie, one of my favorites. And Bernie wants to show you how virtually everything is publicly owned. And guys, very rare we use that term. So Judy, clip number 2, please.
I don't want to get people very nervous, but Social Security is a socialist idea. Medicare is a socialist idea. Those beautiful national parks that millions of people visit every summer that we are so proud of, beautiful parks, socialist idea. And when you take your kid to the library this afternoon, I don't want you to get really nervous, that's another socialist concept. It's publicly owned.
The library is publicly owned, right, guys? So are the police forces. So is the military. So are all these things. So here we are. We're a socialist society, but we don't use the word because we're afraid of it. And why are we afraid of it? Because sometimes some of the economic lessons that we can learn from, being socialist kind of get past us, but they don't get past Bill Maher. So Judy, clip number 3, please.
And in that is an economic lesson for America. Because football is built on an economic model of fairness and opportunity, more like the democratic philosophy. That's why the NFL literally shares the wealth. TV is their biggest source of revenue, and they put all of it in a big commie pot and split it 32 ways.
Guys, so what the NFL does is they take the TV revenue and they split it with the 32 teams. So whether you're a team from Jacksonville, Florida, that only has a viewing audience of 1 million, or whether you're the New York Jets, who has a viewing audience of 20 million, you all get the same amount of money. Everybody is dealt with evenly, fairly, equitably. And we're going to get into that. And you're going to see. You got to remember, in the NFL, there's a minimum wage. A little bit more than you're going to make at McDonald's. I believe the minimum wage is $385,000 a year. But that's not a hard minimum to take, and you get health insurance too with that. But guys, we're starting to see, there's different ways that we can share the wealth. And right now, the money's going to the top, and we've got to change that. But the conservatives, in this next clip we're going to play, the conservatives ask how they can help. Well, you know how you can help? By starting to pay attention to what's going on. You want to help? Start dealing with reality. And what's reality? What's happening right now. The Hurricane Florence that's happening in North Carolina. Guys, this is bringing everybody to their knees. And we have to learn that socially, we have to help each other. Just like we needed help when Sandy came through, now we'll help these people. And guess what? When the people in California, we all get together. And socially, we make a difference. That's right. You heard about the Cajun Navy, right? Going out there and rescuing all these people. Guys, we're going to do a lot about climate change tonight and how the conservatives are trying to more or less cheat everybody into the idea that the globe isn't warming. But we're not going to fall for it, right, Judy? So let's have clip number 4.
The conservatives, this president, we look at how can we stop these problems from happening, how can we mitigate the issues, and how can we help people in the meantime. And that's what the President of the United States is focused on.
Got it.
How can we mitigate these problems? Well, we can start by stopping to put carbon in the air. That's the problem. The problem is carbon. It's plain and simple. Oh, and you know, my friend that I was talking to, of course, the conversation always evolved to global warming. And I asked him, I said, I made a statement and I said, well, you realize that the climate scientists, the experts that publish peer-reviewed studies agree to 97% certainty. And he looked me right in the face and he said, Rich, I don't care what the experts say. I don't believe them. Here's a guy that's chief of police, and he doesn't believe experts. Who the hell do you believe? If you can't believe an expert, who do you believe? Susie down the street? Alex Jones, do you believe him? And this individual was at Sandy Hook. He saw the trauma. He saw the bloodshed. He saw all the nonsense that happened there that Alex Jones tried to bullshit everybody about. So anyway, getting back to the conservatives really don't want to help people. They're more interested in hurting. They're more interested in dividing. And how can I prove this? By playing clip number 5. Judy?
Nearly $10 million taken out of FEMA, almost all of it going to ICE in order to fund more detention beds and ICE's transportation and removal program. Again, this is all according to this budget document.
And we're going to play that clip for you guys. But taking $10 million from FEMA so that we can give it to ICE, so that we can put kids in cages. Isn't that what we want to do in this country? Put kids in cages? Take their money and lock them up? Where have we lost our way? What happened? What went wrong? What went wrong is we have a couple of people like the Koch brothers and Sheldon Adelson who will spend unseemingly amounts of money to get Republicans elected. Why? So they can trick the simple folk and get them to vote against their own interests. And that's what we're getting. You know, they don't want to help people. They want to hurt them. So Judy, let's see. I think I got a little confused. But the next clip we're going to play, guys, watch how subtle this is. And I want you to hear how the brainwashing is conducted on national TV with no fanfare. So, Judy, let's have clip number 6, please.
Funny enough, though, even baseball isn't safe from the myth that socialism has failed. Listen to this announcer calling a Dodgers game suddenly go off on socialism when a Venezuelan player steps up to bat.
Socialism failing to work as it always does, this time in Venezuela. You talk about giving everybody something free and all of a sudden there's no food to eat. Anyway, 0-2.
Hear that? This is on regular TV. And you got a broadcaster that's sticking his 2 cents in, convincing the simple folk who are just sitting there, slugging down a beer and watching TV, and all of a sudden they hear socialism is failing wherever it's used. You can't give people free stuff. You give them free stuff and they run out of food. And you get these simple folk that hear this on TV. See that, Stella? That socialism, that never works. That stuff, we don't want that in this country. Hey, bonehead, you got Social Security, don't you? You like that. You have Medicare, don't you? You know, where everybody shares. You like that, don't you? But you don't like the idea. You don't like the sound of the word. And this is the problem. This is where we've gone wrong. We've built up these walls. Hey, Trump, you don't have to build any more walls. There's already one built. It's called socialism. but we're going to tear that down today. So, guys, the next clip is from our good friend and buddy, Uncle Joey, and I asked him, I said, Uncle Joey, the next show is going to be on socialism. Is there anything you would like to add to the conversation? You know, something intelligent, maybe something with a little intelligence? And guys, you know what Uncle Joey put up? He put up clip number 7. Judy? Why socialism works. It doesn't. It doesn't work. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. That's all you need to know, right? I'm surprised. You know what really shocks me, guys? Look at that. What really shocks me is the fact that Uncle Joey opened up a book. That's a first. Hey, guys, if you ever want to hide something from a Republican, put it in a book. They'll never open it. And guys, you know, a lot of times, you know, people will say, and we'll have Kevin Gallagher and Chris Ponte, you can't make this stuff up. Well, guys, with clip number 8, we can make this stuff up. Judy, hit it. There you think I'm making this up?
This appeared somewhere. Florence now contains sharks. I'm telling you. You want to tell me this story is not true?
Judy, can you play that again, please? Because we missed the very beginning of it.
You think I'm making this up?
Thank you.
This appeared somewhere. Florence now contains sharks. I'm telling you. You want to tell me this story is not true?
Guys, we're going to play the whole clip. But what they're saying is that the hurricane is picking up sharks and dropping them on the people in North Carolina. Either they got to stop drinking or they got to start drinking. One or the other. Because I'm telling you, something ain't right. And guys, you know what the biggest problem is? The biggest problem with climate change and global warming has nothing to do with carbon. It has to do with sin. So, Judy, number 9, please.
And more than dumping too much CO2 into the air or anything else, the scripture makes it clear.
The scripture?
What causes these things? It is sin.
Oh.
Sin.
Sin? I bet you Judy's at fault. I bet you it's Judy's fault. Yep, it's a sin. Yep. But guys, can you believe this? And then you have intelligent human beings like Ken Johnson who sit there and watch this and believe it. Hey, Kenny, can you talk to me in tongues? Kenny talks in tongues, guys, yeah. I don't know what he's saying, but he talks in tongues. But guys, now we're going to get to the real meat of the matter. And we're going to play a clip from Bill Maher. And guys, he's a professional, and he does a lot better with socialism than I can. So let's hear it from the horse's mouth, and let's have some fun. And like we say when we come to the comedy portion of the show, smoke if you got 'em. So Judy, clip number 11, please.
Nicole Wallace, Steve Schmidt, Rick Wilson, George Will, Brett Stevens, Joe Scarborough, Richard Painter, Michael Steele, Jennifer Rubin, David Jolly, Anna Navarro, Max Boot, David Frum. They're the ones who are out there with the gloves off, landing head punches. Even Trump's own people tear him down better than any Democrat. McMaster called him a dope. Mattis, a 5th grader. Steve Mnuchin, idiot. Reince Priebus, idiot. Jogging idiot. Rex Tillerson, moron. Gary Cohn, dumb as shit. Where are our potty mouths? The midterms are 52 days away, and we know what the Republicans are going to be running on. Socialism. You can't vote for Democrats because they're socialists, and socialism is a work camp in Siberia. And one thing Republicans are really good at is they get in a room together, they come up with a line of bullshit, and they all repeat it over and over and over until even Tommy Lahren can do it. This year, they even taught it to Trump.
And they want to raid Medicare to pay for socialism.
He really puts the moron in oxymoron, doesn't he?
Kurt, can I get some volume?
Remember back in 2009, the teabagger at the town hall who shouted, "Keep your government hands off my Medicare." Well, that dummy is now president.
You got it.
But I still don't hear Democrats explaining that Medicare is socialism, and so are the other super popular programs like Social Security and the ban on denying coverage for pre-existing conditions. Trump just gave farmers a $12 billion bailout to make up for his stupid tariffs. We took tax money from some people, mostly in New York and California, and gave it to farmers. I mean farmers. That's socialism. Socialism is the reason you don't have to bring your own highway when you want to drive somewhere. It's why there's a fire department to show up when you're burning Nike spread to the house. The U.S. military does more socialism by 9 a.m. than Venezuela does all day. We build weapons that even the Pentagon says it doesn't want. That's a jobs program. Socialism. You're soaking in it. Even Trump voters like their government goodies. So why can't Democrats all get in a room and come out with a single answer to the scary socialism charge? This is the attack on us. And Democrats' response is, I would say crickets, but crickets make some noise. Mike.
Guys, but we won't say crickets on this show because I don't shut up. It's that simple. But Bill Maher does do a better job. So let's continue with this clip. So Judy, let's have number 12 and part 2.
Russian asset in the White House. You can't make a little political hay out of that. He's not on our side. That's so hard. He's not on our side, like literally. When stuff comes up where he has to side with either our FBI and intelligence agencies, you know, from America, or what Russia says, he goes with them. Nothing? Nothing to make out of that, even though he's constantly confessing it? Trump's Twitter page is like that scene in every Bond movie where the villain tells Bond his evil plan. He's the man with the golden shower. Here's Steve Schmidt after the summit in Helsinki.
It's the musings of an imbecile. Vladimir Putin looks across to the other podium, and what he sees standing there is a fool who's doing Vladimir Putin's bidding. Trump is what the Russians call a useful idiot, someone in service to the Russian Federation, either unwitting or wittingly.
Contrast that with Dianne Feinstein, who said last year, look, this man is going to be president, most likely for the rest of his term. I just hope he has the ability to learn and to change, and if he does, he can be a good president. No, he can't do any of those things. And Democrats' rhetoric does not nearly match the level of that crisis. The Democrats, as usual, are making a molehill out of a mountain. The FBI, the CIA, the Department of Justice, especially here on 9/11 week, let's remember, these are the thousands and thousands of America's most dedicated public servants. The straight arrows. You too. The straight arrows who protect us. He attacks them. He's not on our side. How about this for a slogan? We're not socialists, you're traitors. All right, that's our show. I'll be at the ovens. I'm coming to the Carolinas after the storm in Charlotte, North Carolina to cheer you up September 22nd and at the Durham Performing Arts Center in Durham on the 23rd. I want to thank Richard Clark, Mark Lieberman,
We're not socialists.
Steve Ballmer,
You're
and
traitors.
John Kerry. Join us now for overtime.
Judy, what's going on? Got some trouble with that controller, huh? All right, well, the next clip is going to be clip number 13, and we're going to hear what Bernie has to say about socialism. So 13, Judy.
The other piece of conventional wisdom, the reason that you get sort of tagged with, yeah, he's an interesting guy, but he can't get elected. He's a socialist. And that is a very dirty word in American politics. How did we get to the point where socialism was painted with such a dirty brush?
Well, there are a lot of reasons for it. People write very big books about that. You know, just a couple briefly. The word democratic socialism today is equated by some to what the Soviet Union was, or what China is, or even what North Korea is. You know, communist, authoritarian type countries, which obviously is nothing at all what I'm talking about. I don't want to get people very nervous, but Social Security is a socialist idea. Medicare is a socialist idea. Those beautiful national parks that millions of people visit every summer that we are so proud of, beautiful parks, socialist idea. And when you take your kid to the library this afternoon, I don't want you to get really nervous, that's another socialist concept. It's publicly owned.
So guys, you know, a lot of times you don't realize things that are publicly owned. Socialistic, right? We share, right? Don't we share the library? Don't we share the police department, the fire department? Don't we share the roads? Don't we share the schools, the hospital? Don't we share all these things? We're socialists. We just got to learn to say it. That's all. Don't be afraid of it. We're social animals. Say it. It actually feels, I'm a social animal. You are. Yeah. And guys, the next clip, we're going to show you how the NFL uses socialism so that they keep all the teams on an even keel. No team gets tremendously too much talent when they have a draft. You know, the team that won the Super Bowl picks last in the draft. You know, and guys, they try to do everything. Why? They want every game to end in a tie so that people stay glued to their sets for the whole game. Let's be honest. You know, they want to keep the people involved. It's not like baseball, and we're going to prove it to you now, and you're going to say, wow, I never realized there was such a difference. But Judy, clip number 14, please.
Americans must realize what makes NFL football so great. Socialism. That's right, the NFL takes money from the rich teams and gives it to the poorer ones. Green Bay, Wisconsin has a population of 100,000. Yet this sleepy little town on the banks of the Fuckafino River has just as much chance of making it to the Super Bowl as the New York Jets. Now, me personally, I haven't watched the Super Bowl since 2004, but I get it. Who doesn't love the spectacle of juiced-up millionaires giving each other brain damage on a giant flat-screen TV? It's no surprise that some 100 million Americans will watch the Super Bowl next week. That's 40 million more than go to church on Christmas. Suck on that, Jesus. It's also 85 million more than watch the last game of the World Series. And in that is an economic lesson for America. Because football is built on an economic model of fairness and opportunity, more like the democratic philosophy. That's why the NFL literally shares the wealth. TV is their biggest source of revenue, and they put all of it in a big commie pot and split it 32 ways. Because they don't want anyone to fall too far behind. That's why the team that wins the Super Bowl in the next draft picks last, or what the Republicans would call punishing success. Baseball, on the other hand, is exactly like the Republicans. I mean, their economic theory is every man for himself. The small market Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Super Bowl more than anybody, but the Pittsburgh Pirates, their payroll is 40 million. The Yankees is 206 million. The Pirates have about as much chance at getting in the playoffs as a poor black teenager from Newark has of becoming the CEO of Halliburton. The same angry white males who hate Obama because he's redistributing wealth just love football, a sport that succeeds economically because it does just that. To them, the NFL is as American as hot dogs, Chevrolet, apple pie, and a second giant helping of apple pie.
Guys, you see how they treat their business? Fair and balanced, equal. When everybody, equal opportunity. People keep coming to the games, people keep watching. Of course, not anymore. You can't watch the national anthem on football anymore. Why? Because Trump's made such an issue out of it that they're not playing the national anthem on TV anymore. Nice job, Donnie, you dope. But guys, the next clip we're going to show you. You know, we've been talking about Hurricane Florence and the devastation, and we're going to show you a clip from Fox News, and you're going to see a guy by the name of Pete Hegseth, and he's going to talk about control, how the Democratic Party wants to control you, and how climate change is a religion. And he's going to come up with the old jazz, well, they couldn't call it global cooling, so they called it global warming, and then it got cool again, so now they call it climate, and you hear the same nonsense over and over again. And why? Because you're hearing it from the Koch brothers think tanks. These guys sit there all, how are we going to trick the simple folk to get them to vote for us and still put carbon in the air? Aha! Let's use this tactic. Right, Uncle Joey? Poor Uncle Joey. He doesn't know if he's coming or going. But you'll see, Pete Hegseth says Trump wants to unleash regulations. Yeah, he wants to unleash regulations so we can put more carbon in the air so we can have bigger hurricanes. Because we all know warmer air holds more moisture, and warmer water expands. Ask the people in North Carolina if they think global warming and if they think climate change is real. Ask them when they can't get back into their house for a couple of weeks. And guys, look what happened to us up here. I was without everything, electricity, everything, for almost a week, 2 hours short of a week from one storm. And guys, I have a feeling that ain't the end of it. I mean, these storms are starting to get scary. And the proof is happening right now in North Carolina. But once again, Hegseth says Trump wants everybody to flourish and thrive. Yeah, so we'll dump coal ash in the rivers and kill the fish so you can't drink the water. We'll put carbon in the air and everyone will flourish and thrive. Wrong. Trump doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about the air. He doesn't care about the rivers. He cares about one thing: money. And keeping his billionaire friends happy. The guys that bought the Republican Party. So let's listen to Pete Hegseth now and listen to the Foxtitudes. Listen to them all chip in and preach their nonsense. Judy, Clip number 15, please.
Well,
Right there.
it just so happens I've got Pete Hegseth sitting right next to me, and he's itching to have a go at this one.
But I'm also with shirtless guy. I just want freedom, and I want America.
It's America, man.
That's all I really
And
want.
viral.
Yeah, and viral at the same time.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let's get real here. The shirtless guy,
Yeah.
he was putting other people in danger if they have to go in and rescue him.
He was putting himself in danger. I think Americans should have the right to be stupid if they want to be, and that's what he was doing. But anyway, to that point, Tammy's totally right. It's climate change now. You know what it was before? It was global cooling, and that was global warming, and then it was global cooling, and global warming. They couldn't figure out what it was, so they scrapped them both and went with global climate change. Whether it's hot or cold, windy or not, we're to blame for it. And she got into the key point at the end as well. It's all about control. When climate change is your religion, nothing else matters, and you want to control everything else. This president has said, I don't want to control you. I want to unleash you and give businesses and individuals the ability to flourish and thrive, yet the left will not skip any single moment to condemn this president. And in this case, it's a hurricane. The Washington Post is doing it again.
If the slightest thing goes wrong with the cleanup and or the rescue, it's Trump's fault.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed. Because the left is looking for anything that can possibly go wrong to link Florence with disaster and Trump.
He knows that. This White House knows it. They want to do the right thing for the right reason, but they're also very attuned to the fact that a slip-up will be blamed on them 10 times over.
Okay. Trump is not responsible for what you're seeing on your screens right now. I don't care what you say. Last word.
Well, look, they were blaming Trump for whatever Florence would do days before it hit. And so they now have this narrative. They know what they're going to do. It doesn't matter what actually happens. They said ahead of time what the problem was going to be and how it was his fault, regardless. So this proves that it is a political narrative, and it has nothing to do. And look, this is affecting everyone's lives. It's dangerous. It's a life and death dynamic. The left sees this as an opportunity. They get excited with the potential of victimhood. The conservatives, this president, we look at how can we stop these problems from happening, how can we mitigate the issues, and how can we help people in the meantime. And that's what the President of the United States is focused on.
Got it.
So how can we stop these problems? Trump thinks the answer is simple. Put more carbon in the air. This is the kind of Looney Tune that we got running this country. And you got guys like Uncle Joey he doesn't care. Whatever Trump says and does is okay in his book. He don't care. Well, you saw his book. There wasn't much in it. But guys, the next clip we're going to play is Fox in the Morning and their take on global warming and climate change, and watch how they spin it. And they're going to bring in a Democrat, and watch what they do to change the subject. So, Judy, clip number 16, please.
Now, in the meantime, so we know it's a big storm, right? Well, never let a good crisis go to waste, somebody once famously said.
Rahm Emanuel.
Take a look at the Washington Post. They had a headline yesterday, and it got us talking. The headline reads, "Another hurricane is about to batter our coast, and President Trump is complicit." What they're talking about is how the president plays down humans' role in weather, trying to dismantle any efforts to control the weather going forward. And they quoted a climate researcher who said that Florence is another indication of global warming.
Of course, never let that crisis miss that talking point. Of course, if he undid every loosening of regulation today, it would change nothing about the weather today or tomorrow or a year from now. If that is the cause, it's been going on for quite some time. Representative Luis Gutierrez, of course, used this, a Democrat from Illinois, to criticize the Trump administration's response to the hurricane that hasn't even happened yet. Listen.
You want to know what I fear? It's the calamity, because of the lack of coordination of the government with the National Guard and with local government, the lack of responsiveness and preparedness of this government. Because the president, he wants to find out who is the one that wrote that op-ed piece about the chaos in the White House, because he wants the Justice Department. He is so consumed by the calamity that exists and the chaos that exists that he's not really prepared and focused, because he spends every weekend golfing.
I don't know what he's talking about there. Yesterday on this program, we had the North Carolina governor on, who's a Democrat, and he said the federal government is pulling out all the stops. We had the FEMA administrator on, and he said that they are pre-positioning tons and tons and tons of stuff to be ready.
Also, I feel like this is when someone accidentally sends a press release out before something actually happens. Now, President Trump knows exactly what the talking points are of the left, no matter what happens with this storm. And as you said, President Trump has been there all the way. He's already declared state of emergency for both North Carolina and South Carolina so that federal funds are available to these states when they need them.
And the implication has been from the beginning that this president, because he tweets or does other activities, he can't do other things at the same time. He can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You look at the list of accomplishments and the amount that he's taken from all sides. I mean, I feel like the guy could run a marathon and chew gum.
A conservative strategist by the name of Chris Bannon said this yesterday. He said the media won't give Trump credit for the economy, but will blame him for a hurricane. You can't make this stuff up.
Won't give Trump credit for an economy, but will blame him for a hurricane. Guys, you saw what happened down in Puerto Rico, didn't you? I mean, we lost almost 3,000 citizens. And Trump refuses to admit it. The guy, he's a sick man. When you refuse to admit what everybody is telling you, you're a sick man. Right, Uncle Joey? Uncle Joey don't care. But you know what? There are people who care, and most of those people are scientists. So we're going to play a little clip to give Uncle Joey the business. And this clip is from Bill Nye, the science guy who knows an awful lot about physics. And you know what? You can't fool physics, and you can't fool Mother Nature. So, Judy, let's prove my point with clip number 17, please.
We're as ready as anybody's ever been.
President Trump says FEMA is ready for Hurricane Florence, but mounting evidence suggests it could be incredibly difficult to deal with this disaster if climate change deniers are on the front lines of emergency response. A new study from Princeton University and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, is echoing the findings of previous research showing climate change as the cause of warmer ocean conditions that produce fast intensifying storms like Hurricanes Harvey, Irma, and Maria. In fact, NOAA is now warning that the waters ahead of Hurricane Florence are roughly 3 degrees Fahrenheit above average. But where does the Trump administration stand on climate change? Well, just yesterday, President Trump rolled back Obama-era mandates blocking rogue methane leaks from oil and gas wells. Last month, the EPA weakened a rule limiting carbon dioxide pollution from coal-fired power plants. And in July, the agency reduced regulations capping greenhouse gas emissions from automobiles. These rules were all part of Obama's 3-part strategy for combating climate change. Joining me now to discuss, host of Bill Nye Saves the World and the science guy himself, Bill Nye, and former communications director for the Clinton White House Climate Change Task Force, Paul Bledsoe. He's currently the strategic advisor of the Progressive Policy Institute. Bill, I do want to start with you because you brought some props. I imagine you're gonna show us something interesting. Go ahead.
Well, people, here's the thing that's going to be very troublesome. There's going to be, in English units, 20 inches of rain in most places, and a lot of places more than that. And people, I just want everybody to remember what an inch of rain is. An inch is a cubic inch of water over a square inch of surface. So that would be a cubic inch right there. Doesn't look like much, but imagine this much water wherever you are. This much extra water in your living room where you're watching television or where you're trying to play basketball. And so this much water causes all kinds of trouble. And furthermore, the storms in the northern hemisphere are going counterclockwise. They fetch water up off the sea surface. So you add this much to about 4 times this much. And this is what leads to all this trouble. And the reason people in mainstream science associate a storm like this with climate change is because the sea surface is at least 1 degree Celsius warmer than it was 30 years ago, and it reckoned in the longer term since the steam engine was invented, it's 2.5, 3 degrees Celsius, 3 degrees Fahrenheit, warmer than it would have been 30 years ago. And this energy, this heat energy in the ocean, drives these storms. Now, I look forward, of course, to all the hate tweets. It's going to be great about how a guy who took a lot of physics can't possibly read a graph. I got all that. But everybody, this is not in anybody's best interest to continue to deny climate change. And then what's happened along the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, my people are from Durham, North Carolina, okay? What's happened is many people have built these very nice houses on the seacoast, which are worth millions and millions of dollars. And when those people stop going to work for a week or 2 or a month, the economy in that area doesn't collapse, but is deeply affected. You know, there's tremendous technology in the Raleigh-Durham area. The Raleigh-Durham airport's a huge airport. Atlanta Airport, a huge airport. This is going to disrupt air traffic and cost everybody a lot of money. Back to you, Kate.
So this is going to cost everybody. This is going to cost everybody a lot of money. And guys, socially, we're all going to have to pay. It's that simple. We all have to pay. So how are we going to do it? Are we going to do it by raising our insurance premiums to cover the costs? Or are we going to start to regulate the amount of carbon that we put in the air? You know, we're the only country in the world that backed out of the Paris Accord because of numbnuts. Our President Numbnuts, I tell you, oh boy, is he getting me pissed. And I tell you, guys, the next clip is really going to piss you off because we're going to show you from Rachel Maddow how they took the money from FEMA so that they could lock kids up in cages. And this is what the Republican Party wants to do. So in November when you go to vote, the only thing you need to know is the letter D. Which column is the D? Because anything to do with the Republicans is evil. You got guys that don't care about their fellow human beings. The only thing they care about is their pocketbooks. And this is some sad, sick shit that's happening. So, Judy, let's see how they did this and how they tried to get away with it. But we got them. We caught them. And I tell you what, this is the fun part of the show. So, Judy, clip number 18, please.
Some breaking news. Tonight, Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon has gotten his hands on a document that has never been seen publicly before, which appears to show that Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security requested to transfer about $10 million out of the budget for FEMA this year and into the coffers of ICE to support ICE's detention and deportation programs for immigrants. Senator Merkley's office believed the transfer of these funds happened this summer, just in time for hurricane season. Senator Merkley will join us live in just a moment, but I want to show you the document that his office has obtained. I have it here. I think we can put it on screen. Thank you. It's titled, as you can see, Department of Homeland Security Fiscal Year 2018 Transfer and Reprogramming Notifications. In other words, this is the whole list of money that Homeland Security took from one agency and moved to another. And the practice of transferring monies between agencies, that is not unusual in itself, but it is unusual to see in one of these documents a whole column full of money being deleted from the FEMA budget less than a year after Hurricane Maria, on the cusp of this year's hurricane season, apparently to bolster the government's ability to lock up and deport immigrants. Nearly $10 million taken out of FEMA, almost all of it going to ICE in order to fund more detention beds and ICE's transportation and removal program. Again, this is all according to this budget document obtained by Senator Jeff Merkley's office. Senator Merkley is on the Appropriations Committee. He's not on the Homeland Security Subcommittee there, so he doesn't necessarily have direct oversight here. But Senator Merkley's office tells us tonight that they believe this document is authentic. They believe these budget transfers out of FEMA instead to ICE, that these budget transfers they believe did happen this summer. Just before airtime, the Department of Homeland Security, in our efforts to independently verify this document, we did finally get a response to them, and they all but confirmed that Senator Merkley is right here. Just a few moments ago, Department of Homeland Security just confirmed to us that these monetary transfers out of the FEMA budget were made. A DHS spokesperson didn't dispute the authenticity of the document to us and instead told us that the money didn't come from any of our disaster response and recovery efforts. But again, it appears that it did come from FEMA. We couldn't get any elaboration on that. The spokesperson said that's all they could tell us on such short notice. But we're happy to at least have that. Joining us now is Senator Jeff Merkley, a Democrat of Oregon. He is a member of the Appropriations Committee. Senator, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for letting us know that you'd received this document. We've been doing our own due diligence, trying to sort out what this means. What's your understanding of what this means, bottom line?
Well, it means that just as hurricane season is starting, because it generally starts June 1st, the administration is working hard to find funds for additional detention camps. And of course, this is all part of the child separation policy. And that's how this information came into my hands, because of my work on this issue of trying to stop the child separations. But in fact, so $10 million comes out of FEMA when we're facing a hurricane season, knowing what happened last year, and then look what we've had since. A hurricane just barely missed Hawaii, a tropical storm that almost became a hurricane hit Mississippi, and now we have this hurricane Florence bearing down on the Carolinas. I find it extraordinary. And by the way, Rachel, the chart you put up is the same chart I have in my hand right here. It says that money came from response and recovery, right on it. So I would dispute the statement that this has no bearing on addressing the challenges from hurricanes.
I am looking at the same document as you said that you are, and you're right. The list of areas from which the money comes includes response and recovery. And then response and recovery, and response and recovery, response, also preparedness and protection, mission support, mitigation, regional operations, all areas that FEMA has apparently partially defunded in order to instead send the money to ICE. Now, as you mentioned, Senator, this document and your understanding about what this means comes in part from your work on the family separation policy. You did groundbreaking work exposing that to the public. You were the first person to come out and say that you'd been able to get into one of these facilities and seen kids in cages. Is it your understanding that the Trump administration's policy to start separating families, to start taking kids away from their parents, to start that new effort that they did this year, that might have necessitated this increase in funds because they didn't otherwise get that funded by Congress?
Yes, absolutely. It seems very connected because it was in a speech in May 7th that Jeff Sessions announced this new policy that actually started a little bit earlier, the month earlier. But clearly they were saying if we're going to start arresting as a criminal matter and detaining people, we need to have much bigger detention camps. Oh, well, we better get some more money into that. And now the administration has just put out a draft, a regulation in which they intend to establish internment camps so that to lock up children behind barbed wire. So we're going from the horrendous policy of ripping children out of their parents' arms, and of course we're still trying to reunify all those families, to a new strategy of building internment camps that would be funded through the same account that these funds would go to through ICE.
Internment camps for kids who have been accused of crimes, of kids who are in trouble in the judicial system because of some criminal behavior, or simply kids who are immigrants?
Kids who simply are part of a family. So this is family internment camps. And we haven't done anything like that since World War II. It absolutely comes from a dark and evil place in the heart of this administration. They're going from one strategy of inflicting trauma on children to a new strategy that they're trying.
So guys, this comes from a dark and evil place. Yeah, the back of Trump's mind. And where do they put these kids? In cages. And what kind of cages? Well, we're going to show you with clip number 19. Judy? New government footage shows children detained in cages at large detention center in McAllen, Texas. Look at that, guys. Is that an embarrassment? That's America. This is what we're doing. And the press hasn't been allowed to film inside. Can you imagine being one of these kids? Welcome to the United States, kids. Only 4 social workers. Geez, I'm surprised I had that many.
It reminded me, honestly, of going into an animal shelter, the way it was set up in a warehouse.
Yeah, well, that's the way Republicans treat people, like animals. Government-sanctioned child abuse. That ain't the truth. Chain link cages full of unaccompanied kids. Unbelievable. All right. So, guys, this was another exciting adventure in the annals of Who's Telling the Truth. So hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully we learned something together. You know, so guys, whenever you think about socialism, think about sharing. You know, and that's how we're going to handle it from now on. Socialism is sharing. See you next week, guys, on a new set. We hope.